Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we are talking about magnetization, and we're going to show you how to magnetize and talk a little bit about why you might want to. And I'm going to be going with the Chaos Dwarves, aka the Hellsmiths of Hashut for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, because they are a very diverse new faction for the game, and they very much have, just about every unit has two unit types that differ wildly. And when you can only build a certain model a certain way, it asks the question, do I want to build it this way, or do I want to build it that way, or do I want to magnetize and be able to drop different components in and out, so it can be what you see is what you get, and you have the option to go back and forth between this giant thing or the rocket battery at a moment's will. We're going to show you how I've been doing this and show you how you can do it yourself and compare some of the different units to show you why you might want to even do this in the first place. And we'll be talking a little bit about the Hellsmiths of Hashut in the process. So be kind of a multi-form video. Let me know if you guys like this. We are still doing 12 Days of Life Day, which is a giveaway that's going to be having giveaways all throughout the month of December. If you want to enter to win any of the surprise giveaways, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, if you are interested in transporting and storing your minis, especially if you have minis with magnets on them, or you want to use foam, definitely check out Battle Foam, and you can save 15% by using code Crabbok VIP. There's going to be a link down in the video description. If you head over to battlefoam.com, you can check out all of their amazing products, whether it's the foam that you can store your stuff for transport in, or the Magna racks, if you like to put little magnets underneath your stuff and then slide them onto racks for both display and transport, or any of their other products. There are different transport cases and all of the different things that they have. Very cool stuff. Use code Crabbok VIP. You can check that out. Now, let's take a look. And I want to start off with the Bull Centaurs, which are definitely one of those that you really will want to look at, and look at which kind of option you want to build and how you might magnetize them. All right, so we've got our Bull Centaurs here. Now, this is a $65 expansion. This is not cheap. And of course, you know, GW games tends to not be cheap. Miniatures games as a whole tends to not be cheap. There are two different ways that you can build these guys. You can build them as anointed sentinels, or you can build them as bull centaurs. And what we're gonna look at their unit cards and look at their stats and show you how different they are. Sometimes units have very minor changes. Sometimes units are only built a certain way, and sometimes they're built completely differently. And this is a box that has 3 bases, 3 miniatures. Now, of course, there's always the option that you could build them all differently. Like you could build one bull centaur and one, anointed sentinel or something like that. But that's just not right. And a lot of, also sometimes you just, for thematics, like I happen to be of the mindset that I think these guys look way cooler, but I prefer these guys in their combat role. And so maybe I want to have all of the options. Now, we've got our sprue here, and we're gonna put a little bit of this together in a minute. But generally, it's important to examine the sprue. It's also important to examine the document here that is going to show us how they go together, because one of the things that I have noticed is, because this is my second box and I've already done one, is that the different ways that, the optional assemblies are always color-coded in these boxes. And if you're playing a different game outside of a GW game, it might not be color-coded in the exact same way. But the important thing is read through it all, kind of envision how it's going to go, and see if there's an easy place for you to stick magnets in and ways for you to do it. Now, not every model is going to have an easy way to magnetize. For example, my little spearmen here, it's not going to be as easy because they have different weapon profiles, and you would need really, really tiny magnets, and that might be a little more difficult to do. They might not hold as strongly and things like that. But in the case of these guys, they happen to, you're basically building the mount's base and then choosing which torso you're going to build. So I asked myself, can I magnetize these? And I'm going to show you that we can, and then you can choose which torso you want to do. So let's go ahead and kind of run you through that process really quick. All right, so I've cut out the first 3 pieces, and I'm just dry fitting them here to see how they'll go together. And the thing is here, this front part is the last part to go on, but it's basically 2 sides. Now, this is the part of the torso that the other part is going to rest on top. So the torso connects to here on the base. So this is in here is basically where we want our magnet. It's important to know that before I start gluing everything together. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is I've got my magnets here. These were sent to me from the Magnet Baron. So if you want to check out the magnetbaron.com, they have a lot of different magnets over there. You'll notice that my magnets all here have a little bit of magic marker on the top. What I'll do is I'll take a Sharpie and I'll mark the tops of all of these, and they're all the same way, right? So because the problem is if you start sticking magnets on and you don't mark them, I might put this down and then I might try to magnetize something and realize, oh no, reverse the polarity, it won't go together, and then it flips over, boom, like that. And the worst thing in the world is for you to magnetize something backwards and then all of a sudden it pushes apart. That's really bad. So by marking these, and every time I pull one off, I mark the next one underneath, it's a good way to ensure that you can make sure your polarity is correct and all your magnets are facing the same direction, and allows you to just do a quick sanity check. So definitely a tool of the trade. Always mark the tops of your magnets. Always mark them going the same way, and do that for your entire army. I always kind of keep mine connected to like a metal tray or something like this. Is a candle lid, right? But I keep them connected to a metal tray as I'm going to be working with them, and so I can just keep marking and keep them going over and over. So now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this, let this dry, and then get our magnets in there. All right, so I have my the base of the torso sort of assembled here, and I'm going to put my magnet in right in here. The way I do it is I do it where the ink side is always up. So that means that this one will go in here with the ink side hitting the roof, and the other one will go on, will basically be able to go on top like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put I've got my little super glue. So I've got my magnet in there, stuck kind of gently. Now, one of the things I'll do to hold it in place, I'll take another one and put it on top right there, and that'll help me hold it where I want it to be, and get it right there in the middle. And then I can put my other piece on. This will keep it from kind of falling off or sliding around while the glue dries. And I can let that dry for a little while. All right, so while that's drying, I've gone ahead and built the rest of the armor plating on the base and started putting together the torso section. And as you can see, it would go on right here. But as is problematic with the torso section, I don't want to lock it into this. I want it to be magnetizable. The problem is, where am I going to magnetize it in there? This is where we have to get a little bit creative, and I'm going to be cutting off some bits of sprue and trying to build some framework inside here that I can glue a magnet to. Now, when it's completely open like this, it takes a little while. One of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to target kind of this little circular section in here, and I want to cut some bits of frame that are going to go from here to about right here, because if you look at kind of where this kind of rises up, I can have this sort of flush with the back here, so I can kind of have something that goes like straight from here on out over to here, give or take. Now, the magnet doesn't actually have to be completely flush against this part. We can take this off now, because it'll stick to there real hard. You could hear that. It's going in there real hard. Again, these are neodymium, so they're really strong. So it'll lock in and hold really tight, even if it's like not completely all the way there. But also the fact that there's plastic separating the two means you don't have to worry about them like locking in so tight that they like break off, and then you go to pick up, like what you don't want to do is you don't want to pick up the torso and see it in there. So we're going to want this thing nice and supported in here, and that's what I'm going to do. So one of the things that we do is I'm just going to start clipping bits of sprue, and I'm going to clip a couple of them so I have different pieces to work with. And we're then going to sort of line this up in here, and you can see, okay, that's a little bit too long. That gives us an idea of where we want to clip it. So I want to clip it about right there, and we'll just do this until we get it kind of at least roughly in there. And it's okay if we have to go back and forth a couple of times. I definitely recommend using some tweezers because my fingers are too big to fit in here. And then we can try to fit this out, and this is just like a millimeter or two long, so we're going to shave this down a little bit at a time until we get it just right. And save all those extra bits too, because you can use all of these little bits of sprue for some sprue glue if you have it, or as extra kind of reinforcing materials on the sides. So again, we're just going to keep shaving this down until we get it, and I think we're just about there. We want to kind of like that. All right, let me get some glue and get it all lathered up. About right there, and I'm going to put a couple more pieces in to reinforce it. And I'm going to let that kind of dry for a little bit, but I can wiggle it a little bit. I want a little more flush right there. That's exactly how I want it. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting some sprue glue on here, and this is just a spare thing of Tamiya that I have that I've mixed bits of sprue in, and this just kind of creates a nice kind of glue that can go in and fill in cracks and just kind of reinforces any of the, because again, this is kind of curved and I was putting a flat surface against it. It's going to fill that in and give it a little bit more consistency throughout. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I pulled out the cards because it's going to take probably an hour or two for that to dry. So I want to talk about why we might want to do this. We're looking at the Anointed Sentinels here, and also have the Bull Centaurs, so we can kind of compare them and why you might want one as opposed to the other. They're both 3 models. They're both 10-inch move, 4 health, 4 up save, and 1 control. They're very similar in a lot of respects. They each get +1 damage when they charge. They're damage 2 attacks, rend 1, wound of, they hit on, they're 3 up, 3 up, so they hit on 3s and they wound on 3s. But the Bull Centaurs have an extra attack per. So out of the 3 models in there, you're going to roll 4 attack dice per model as opposed to 3 with the Anointed Sentinels, which makes the Bull Centaurs a little bit better. They're both cavalry and have the champion roll, which is +1 die if your leader's still alive, right? If your champion's still alive. But there's a couple of things that make them a little different. They each have Crush the Unworthy, which gives them +1 to charge rolls for their demonic power points. Again, they seem very, very similar, but it's the additional things that make them very, very different. The Anointed Sentinels, while they look cooler, they also have this cool strike first ability whenever they countercharge for this unit, which is a cool ability, and that's it's a fun thing, especially if you want to like maybe run a reinforced unit of these guys. Imagine this many guys, a huge unit that gets a free strike first just because they countercharged. Oh, by the way, that works really well with their +1 to charge rolls. But this is somebody who's not going to be charging during your charge phase, and that could work differently with depending on the type of unit you're building. Like maybe you are running Uruk-Tar, or maybe you're running the generic version of Uruk-Tar, right? Whereas the Bull Centaurs have a different ability. When they do damage when they charge, and they add the extra basically they roll a die and they add the number of demonic power points this unit has to each roll, and for each 6 up. So if they've got 3 DPP, that means for every 3 up, they're doing a mortal damage, which is pretty nice for each model in this unit too. So that could be 3 extra mortals anytime they charge. And these guys just roll more dice. So these are the ones that want to be charging a little bit more, because they are also, when they charge, they get +1 damage, but they also have crit mortals. Now imagine this unit is full health, and they have 4 attack dice per model, which is 12, then 1, so 13 dice. Every crit is going to be 3 damage because you charged. Plus you're starting off with a couple of mortals, potentially 3 mortals right away. It's just insane, right? And you get +1 to the charge roll, so you're probably going to make the charge. That's really, really nasty. So I like these guys more for offensive. I want to be charging, and these guys for more defensive. I want you to come in close, but maybe avoid me, because if I countercharge you, I get an advantage. So again, it depends on if you're trying to be more offensive or more defensive. And I think that's an important thing, and why you might want one versus the other, or maybe some of both. And that's really where you need a difference on them, right? Because you don't want it to be confusing for your opponent. If I'm running, if I built all my guys as Anointed Sentinels, that's fine. A regular opponent might say, yeah, you can run them as Bull Centaurs. That's fine. It's not a big deal. But what if I wanted to run like 2 of each or 1 of each or something like that? And then it's going to be a little confusing as to which is which if I built them all this way. So, again, there's other ways that you can do to mark that somebody's different. You can put tokens and other things like that. But the clearest and cleanest way is to do it this way. Plus, if you want to hobby and paint them all up, you're going to be able to, have them looking different as well. And that is also a fun part of it. So, and there's a lot of units in this faction that do the same thing. That have major differences between the 2 versions, and you can't build both unless you magnetize. All right, so we're going to fast forward to the end result here, and I've gone ahead and assembled all the rest of the bull or the anointed sentinel. One of the things we've done here with the magnet, we've glued the magnet onto the sprue. We've added extra bits in there, and then I've also taken some sprue glue and coated it over top of the magnet as well to kind of hold it in there a little bit more, just so it doesn't come out. Sometimes magnets, if they're not like sealed really well, can come out a little bit. If you want to, you can even put some more sprue the other way and reinforce it even more. You have a lot of options on how you want to do that, but this seems good enough for me right now. Especially since it won't be touching the other magnet directly. If you do have two magnets that are going to touch, if it's metal to metal, you need a whole lot more reinforcement. I'll show you an example of that next. But for this one, I want to show you how this is going to go on. It's going to go on nice and clean. Look at that. It goes on very, very clean, and it holds in like, look, I'm messing with it. It's not going to fall off. I have to pull it off. These are, again, the thicker the magnets, the stronger the hold, right? These hold in really nice. And look at that. We built the other guy as well. And look at this. It's going to go in there just like that. It is perfectly on there. And we have completely different torsos, and we can now just make sure you paint the, like make sure you take the paint scheme into consideration. Like if you did the skin on this guy like purple, and then don't paint this guy completely separate and make him like yellow, and then when you put the body on there, like oops, yeah. So like make sure you do that, and I've done that to all of them. Now they all can come on and come off, and boom, it's as simple as that. I recently did a video about Uruk-Tar, and I talked about how he was a very expensive model and also costs a lot of points and also a lot of dollars, right? So you might not want to have to buy two of this guy to run the generic versus the named version. So what I decided to do, I did, I don't have him glued together to the base yet, but where this pedestal was assembled, I put the magnet underneath, and this guy also had a little section in here. I cracked it open a little bit so you could kind of see the magnet in underneath the feet in there, but he's still separated by plastic, and this is a plastic versus plastic, so there's no metal exposed at all, and he goes in there right. So again, like the 6x2 or the 6x3 millimeter magnets are really strong, and they'll go through even 2 layers of plastic, and he holds in really good right there. And the cool thing about this on this particular display is I can spin him around a little bit. I got some options. He can be looking that way, he can be looking that way, or I can make him backwards, if we want to do that. And then we can also put our named Uruk-Tar on there as well. I was a little worried about him because this piece, this is an optional assembly. You can build him without the particle effect, but it's a big piece that adds a lot of diversity to the model and how you want to paint it. But it also adds some weight to him. It could make him top heavy. But this is a strong enough model. See, I'm moving him around. He's not coming off, right? So it's a really good hold, and I have great options. Another cool thing you can do, you have to think about where you're going to put these pieces when you're not using them. And a cool thing to think about is maybe before you put your terrain on here and your basing material and stuff, put a magnet on there and then cover it up a little bit with dirt, and then he can be standing on the sidelines, right? So maybe I wanted this guy like right here, and I want you kind of standing in the back, like cheering him on or something like that. This way I don't have to worry about storage or losing the piece or anything like that. So again, you have a lot of cool options, but it's now I can swap this guy out so I can make him the named or the generic at will. And last but not least, this is a third type of example. Here's one that's already painted and done. But the Dominator engine here has 2 very different weapons. He's got a ranged and a melee option. And of course, that's probably one of the most significant differences in a unit. And this is a very powerful unit. I think this is going to be a staple unit of the army. As a matter of fact, he has a 2-up save. We'll look at his unit card here in a minute, just to demonstrate just how drastically different these 2 versions are. But here is a weird example of where there was not an easy way to magnetize these. Well, the way it was set up is this was a fully encircled gear, and this had 2 sort of hooks that went in, and then if you built it normally, it would it would be kind of tight on there, but it would kind of rotate in and out and stuff like that. And the way I've done it, it doesn't really rotate in and out anymore, but it does rotate this way if you wanted to do that. But I had to have exposed like magnet to magnet. So I used multiple layers of little bits of shavings and lots of different bits of sprue glue and sprue glue on top, and then gluing the magnet in, and then about 4 or 5 layers of sprue glue on top of that, letting them dry over and over again because if you only do like 1 or 2 layers and then you click it together, magnet to magnet, and you pull it apart like after like 30 seconds or so, there is a chance it might break through the sprue glue. But I did that like about 6 or 7 layers on each side, and it's holding really well. And I did this on both of these, as you can see. There was a lot of work I had to do in there, and then I also primed and painted it in there as well, so it's all covered, and now these hold together really well. And what this allows me to do is to drop his arms off and be able to equip the maces and build the melee option as well. And I can build them however I want. Or I know some people are building this, it's if they want to be able to run it, however they want. You can build it where it just has 1 and 1. But now I have the options to do whatever I want. And if I build a second one of these guys, maybe I change up the color scheme. Hey, they can do some cool things like swap out arms. Like if I do the red arm for my other guy or whatever, they could be like, let me borrow your arm, brother. And then, yes, of course, and then, change up color schemes and stuff like that. So it gives you some fun options as well. And again, this is, multiple layers of sprue glue over the top like we were doing before, letting them dry completely in between, and then adding more. And it takes multiple days to get this kind of effect, so this might not be for everybody, but this is what I did. So I said we would talk about the differences between the units, just so you have a rough idea there. Again, this is the Dominator engine, whether he's ranged or melee. Still a 6-inch move, 2 control, 10 health, and a 2-up save. The 2-up save is really a big deal on this guy. It makes him very hard to wound. And even when you do get wounds on him, he's got 10 health, so he's going to stick around for a while. He also has a bodyguard option, which is very cool. But this guy's ranged weapon, he's got 5 attack dice for ranged, and then 3 for his melee. Now, to be fair, the other guy only has 4 attack dice for his maces, which is a little crazy. They both have demonic strength, which for each of their DPP up to 3, you get 1-inch move bonus and 1 to your attacks characteristics of all of your weapons, which means that he could potentially roll up to 7 dice with his mains, which is with his maces, which is really nice. And he does have 3 damage. If he charges, he can get +1 damage, which is nice, but it's not super great. He also has the engine of domination. If he's in combat with an enemy hero, he can use 2 fight abilities, and he'll gain strike last, which is a very nice thing. He can kind of run in there and be a hero killer if he absolutely has to, but sometimes if you're in combat with another hero, you're going to be taking pretty strong hits, and he might not survive to do that. A lot of times when they know somebody's going to swing again hard, especially if they charge and they're now a damage 4 attack, they might not survive until the end. So, I think this guy's okay under certain circumstances, but this guy is absolutely insane. For one, if he's got the extra 3 for his attacks, that's for both his ranged and melee. And this guy is also really nasty in melee because he's got shoot in combat. So if he's in combat with you, he can still shoot. His damage isn't automatically 3 like the other guy. It's D3, so it can fluctuate a little bit. But here's what makes this guy insane. All must burn. When picking targets for his shooting attacks, and again, in this game, you can split your fire, right? He's normally 5, right? He could potentially be up to 8, right? When picking targets for your shooting attacks, if you pick more than 1 unit to be the target of those attacks, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of his immolation cannons for each target picked. However, those additional attacks must be split evenly between the targets you picked. So in theory, even without any DPP, if you have 5 different targets, like if you move to a place where you have 5 different guys at within range 8 inches, you could throw 1 die on each of them, add 2 to each of that, and now all of a sudden you're rolling 3 dice on all of those. So that turns out to be 15 dice with D3 damage, which is pretty insane. However, you could be up to 8. All right. And now, granted, you're not going to have 8 guys within 8 inches, it's almost, I mean, it's unlikely that that'll happen. I think most of the time you're probably gonna have 3, but still, you're rolling a whole lot of dice, making a whole lot of different attacks. This guy's really, really fun. And even in melee, he still gets a lot of attacks because he can do the shoot in combat and his regular melee, which is 1 less attack die, but that's not a big deal. You know, for somebody who this guy gets to attack 2 times every round before the fight lasts, because he gets to do his ranged and his melee. This guy just gets to do melee twice. So, you know, I like the idea of being able to go back and forth between them. Plus, they might get buffed. This guy might go down heavily in points. This guy might go up heavily in points. They may errata some of this stuff. Again, this all can change. Next edition, who knows how different the 2 will be. So being able to magnetize is always a really cool option to do. All right, that wraps up this video. Hopefully you guys liked or found it helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and good luck on your magnetizing efforts in the future. I really enjoy doing it this way. It gives me a lot of versatility and makes the units a little more fun to play with because I get to change their look around. Let me know some of your tips, tricks, and successes and failures in the comments section below. And don't forget to join our Discord. Other social media links are in the description below. Head over to Battlefoam. Don't forget that code Crabbok VIP, all that other good stuff. And don't forget to subscribe and enter to win one of the 12 Days of Life Day giveaways. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always